Hi, I'm Tiffany Craig of Continuum Counseling Services in Columbia, Maryland, and this is another Mental Health Minute. We've been working on a series of Relationships 101, a primer for healthy enough relationships. In the last video, I talked a little bit about conflicts, and we talked about adjusting the goal of the conflict to be, instead of trying to win the other person or win the argument or win the conflict, our goal is instead to find harmony, to find a way to live in the relationship with the other person that offers respect and considers both people's needs. So we're shifting that goal, which gets us away from pride. We're going to talk a lot about pride. One thing that happens in conflicts for virtually everybody, unless we're very, very, very intentional about it, we tend to regress, okay? The reason we're feeling heated, the reason things are getting ramped up and amped up is that some older thing has been touched, some repeated story, like we feel like we're not good enough, or we feel like we're invisible to the other person, or that we don't matter, or we're not being heard, or we're not being respected. Those are old wounds, and they come back up and they insert themselves into the conflict, whether they belong there or not. And whether they belong there or not, being intentional about what you're actually trying to accomplish will become a space of healing instead of a space of repeating the same wound over and over and over again, which kind of doesn't get us anywhere, right? So one thing I hear a lot with families, with couples, with people who come into my office, when there's a conflict, I hear a lot of fault and blame. And people get annoyed when I say this, but it's true. I have absolutely no use for fault. I don't care whose fault it is. What matters to me is, what do we do with what we have? How can we do this differently? If you need fault, fine. Okay, it's all my fault. Now can we please move on to something more substantial, something more helpful? Okay, so, take for instance, say I walk into a room and I stomp on your foot and I break your foot. And I meant to do it. I'm at fault, right? And your foot's broken. And you're pretty mad at me, I hope. Same scenario, I walk into the room, I am diving to save a child from falling into a table, and I accidentally, in the process, stomp on your foot and break your foot. Am I at fault? Yes, I am. Is your foot broken? Yes, it is. What's more important? Figuring out whether or not what level of fault I have in your injury, or getting you to the hospital? Yeah. See, we want to work on the broken foot. It's a lot more important. And when you've already kind of gotten pride out of the way, when it's not a matter of proving that you're right, or proving that you're better than the other person, or proving that whatever may be your particular touchstones, when you get past that, you can move past this fault and blame thing. I will also talk about shame, which gets in the way, but that's going to be a later video because it requires a video all by itself. So at this point, I just want to say, let's step away from the idea of fault and blame, because it's going to get in the way of actually being able to do the conflict in a healthy way. What we want to focus on is, what do we both want to see change in the situation? Let me say it again. What do we both want to see change in the situation? Okay. Fault and blame will pull you away from that conversation. And it really doesn't help. I think a lot of the time we will shoot for fault or blame because it's almost a piece of revenge. Or sometimes when someone's hurt us, we unconsciously start to want to hurt them back. And that's really, when you think about it, that's about revenge. They've hurt us and we want them to hurt. Even if it's completely unconscious, it's very often there. And just understand that revenge is actually about anesthesia. Okay? We gravitate towards revenge when we want to not hurt anymore. But there are much healthier, much more effective ways to get there than to sort of compromise our own values and become like the person who's hurt us. That's really not a helpful goal, right? So, kind of what we're looking for, what you really want in this situation, is going to require some humility. Okay, so again, fault, shame, pride, all those things have to go to the side, or we can't really feel safe enough to be humble. When we're humble, we can look at our behavior and say, yeah, actually I was wrong. If I mess up, I'm going to own up. And if both people are owning up when they mess up, then we move towards something much, much, much more constructive, because it's not about who's a better person. It's not about, who did what, where, when. It's about, what do we need to change, right? Their goal is, what do we both want to see change? And if my behavior towards you was hurtful, even if I didn't mean to, even if I feel you completely misunderstood my intention, I still don't want to hurt you. And so it's important for us to sort of comb through and parse out, okay, when you said this, when I said that, kind of how did we get where we are? And how do we get to a healthier place where I'm being mindful of things that matter to you and you're being mindful of things that matter to me? That requires humility. And humility leads us to a place of better connecting, better understanding, and better trust, which is better relationship. It has to be okay, even mid-sentence, mid-fight, to humble up and to recognize, okay, I didn't intend it the way you received it, but that's the way you received it, and I care about you. So I don't want that. Let's find another way to do it. Even if it requires me to help you understand me a little bit better, so that you understand that wasn't my intention. But first I'm going to try to put myself in your shoes with empathy. And I'll give you some tools for that in a minute, in another video. But I want to understand what your experience was so that I can then be mindful of that and treat you with greater respect, greater kindness, greater boundaries. And a man's gift makes way for him. Hopefully you'll be able to do the same for me, and then we're having a better relationship. So in our next video, we're going to talk about patience and forgiveness and how they weave into this whole plan and this whole process. And then I'll talk about concrete communication building blocks in another section. So that's today's Mental Health Minute. Until I see you again, take good care.
You know, let's face it, sometimes life is just hard. The good news is you don't have to go through it alone. We all hit different bumps and challenges along the way, and I'm here to help you. So go to my website, www.mypeace.co. That's www.mypeace.co, not com, C-O. I do mean that. And click on the Contact Tiffany button. Let's talk. You can send me an email, you can text me, you can call me, either way. But let's figure out how we can get you moving from surviving to thriving. As the great Maya Angelou once wrote, surviving is important, but thriving is elegant. So let's thrive. I'll talk to you soon.